Hello guys, let's look into login. So as you know, during development very often you have to inspect logs of different services. Fortunately for us, Docker makes inspecting logs very easy for us. So if I'm going to list my containers here, Docker PS, and you've got list of all the containers up and running. What you can do DockerCompose logs, name of the service. So let's grab some Nginx, and Docker will output recent logs for you. Let's do another one, MySQL. Yeah, and this is great, but I would like to do something a little bit different. So let me go to code editor, and what I want to have additional directory where I'm gonna be storing all the logs within my project files. So what I'm going to do, I'm gonna create a new directory called logs, and within this directory I'm gonna divide them into services name. So first is gonna be Nginx, and another one PHP, and MySQL, finally Redis. So what I'm going to do, I'm just gonna mount some text files, some log files into the containers. So every time the log is created, it's gonna be output into this directories. So when I do development, then I don't have to go to terminal and type the commands to check the logs. I can just come here and I can quickly inspect all the logs I need. So first of all, let's set up login for Nginx. So we can't simply just grab the log files and be done with it, because file login in Nginx is not enabled. Instead, what's happening, the log output is redirected to Docker log collector. So if I go to the browser and find Nginx Alpine image, I'm gonna quickly show you. Nginx Alpine, and let's have a look. So we can log into Alpine, and should be so okay. It's here. So as you can see, error logs are redirected, so they're not going to be saved into the files. So there is a few ways how we can go around that. I'm gonna show you the easiest way. Back in our editor, what we want to do, we want to edit our virtual host. So let's do that. And as you remember, these two files were redirected to Docker. So what we can do instead, we can just rename them. That will create new log files. So let's do something like manual. Manual. And let's do the same for another file. Manual. And this is all we need to do in order to grab our logs from the container. Let's go quickly to terminal. Let's list our containers, and let's restart our Nginx container. So let's do DockerCompose app d. Actually, we need to force rebuild. So DockerCompose app -d build force recreate. Let's run, and I forget the dash, sorry. Quickly do that. Okay, that should recreate our containers. So now if we SSH into our Nginx container, docker exec -it my project Nginx sh, we should be able to navigate to the place where our logs are stored and inspect them. So let's do that. cd var log, and let's see, that's here, cd nginx, and list the files. And as you can see, our new files were created. So if we go back to the browser and quickly hit the URL and go back to terminal, now we're gonna be able to inspect our new access log and just check if the logs are stored. So let's do that. Access manual, and as you can see, now we are receiving the contents of the logs. Also, we can inspect the other file, our initial log files with access.log, and it should be empty, and it is empty. Okay, great. So this is really all we need to do. So if we go back to our code editor in our DockerCompose, what we can do, we can mount these files, and we will be able to store them in our project. So let's go back to DockerCompose and let's look for our Nginx service. So in our volumes, we're going to specify traditional volumes. I'm gonna just copy and paste that, and let me clean this up just like that. So what we want to do, we want to mount logs Nginx, and what are we gonna call this? We're gonna call this error.log, and we're gonna do exactly the same for the other one, with the exception for the name, of course. So let's grab this and let's paste that here, and this is going to be our access log. Access. Great. Before we go to terminal, we need to actually create this file. So let's do a new file, error.log, and another one, new file, access.log. Great. So now let's switch back to terminal, leave our container, and let's rebuild our Nginx service. I will just take a few seconds. So now if we go back to our browser and hit this URL, we should be able to start receiving our logs in our files. As you can see, we can see the output. So this is great. Let's just test our error log now. So let's navigate to our code base, and in our DB file, we're gonna close HTML tag, PHP tag, and let's just create an image with a broken source. So let's just do something random like test PNG, and some random alt. Let's save that, and let's go back to our browser, and if we hit db.php, we should see our broken image, and that should trigger Nginx error. So let's go back to our PHP storm and let's see, and as you can see, we are receiving errors. So this is all good. What did it say? Yeah, that's exactly what we want. Next, let's focus on MySQL. This is going to be a very simple task, because we don't have to do any additional configuration. All we have to do, we just have to grab the log file from MySQL server. Let's jump into our DockerCompose, and in our MySQL service, what we're gonna do, we're gonna specify a volume. So let's do that, volumes, and we're gonna mount this from logs MySQL, and we're gonna do MySQLd.log to etc, actually no, var log, and the file in the container is MySQLd.log, and that should be sufficient. So let's test it out, but before that we need to create actual file. So we're gonna do MySQL debug. Okay, and let's go back to terminal. In our terminal we're gonna recreate our MySQL container. And it's done. Go back quickly to our code editor, and as you can see we start receiving all the MySQL logs. So for example, if we go back to DB, let's delete that and let's specify the wrong username. Hit that URL in the browser and we got our error. So let's go back to our MySQL log and you will see access denied for user admin and so on. Okay, next let's sort out PHP. Okay, so by default login for PHP is not enabled, and we can quickly confirm that by getting initialization variables. So let me comment this out for now, and let's do something like let's do print, and what we're gonna do, I'm gonna do that, and we're gonna do log error like that, and we're gonna concatenate any get and the name of the variable, which is log errors. So it's log errors, and the other one is not, it should be print, not pint. Okay, right, let's do the same for another one, print, and this time it's gonna be error log any get, and we want error log. So now if we run this in the browser, we should get some information. So let's run this, and as you can see, error log error is enabled. We've got one, but the error log file is not specified. So we can quickly fix that by editing PHP configuration. And as you remember in the previous episode, we loaded php.ini development. So if we go here, we can look for settings related to logs, HTML, and we are interested in this line here, error log, syslog. Here we go, this is the line we want to uncomment, so we can uncomment this line. And what we need to do, we need to specify the path on our container where the log's gonna be stored. So what we can do, we can say var log php fpm and the name of the file. So in our case it's going to be php errors. Let's just say errors, it doesn't matter. So let's save that, and now if we try to rerun this, it's not gonna work because php fpm directory doesn't exist in the container yet. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna jump quickly into our Docker file, and on the very end we are gonna actually create this directories, so we can say run, and we're gonna create directory, so mk dir, we're gonna do var log php fpm, and we are gonna have our directory, but then we are gonna run into permission issues. So what we need to do, we need to churn this to www data colon www data, and we can do recursively. The directory is empty, but let's do var log php fpm, and that should be sufficient. So now if we go back to our DockerCompose, let me just copy this. If we go back to our DockerCompose and we're gonna go to our PHP service, we're gonna specify another volume, which is gonna be logs PHP, and say errors .log, and this is going to be there, and we need to have exact name of the file we specify in our PHP development, so it's errors.log, errors.log. Now if we save this, let's go back to our terminal and let's recreate our PHP service. So if we do that, force recreate, we should be able to quickly recreate our PHP container. And if we go back to our browser, if we refresh this page, as you can see, we are getting error log file, and if we go back to our code editor, we are going to have a little issue because I forgot to actually create the file itself. So let's do that. File errors.log, create that, and very quickly in terminal just recreate a container. Let's go back to our code editor, and in our code, in our DB, let's delete that and maybe specify undefined variables, so echo abc, and try to hit that URL to trigger an error. So we got our error, undefined variable. If we inspect our log file in PHP, as you can see, we've got all our errors nicely logged into this file. Okay, lastly, we've got Redis to sort out, so let's do that now. Okay, let's navigate to our Redis directory within Docker folder. So we're gonna do that, and as you remember, we've got our Redis configuration, so we need to enable login into file, because if this log file variable is not set, logs will be sent to dev null. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna do var log Redis errors, errors.log. What we can also do, we can specify the level of details we're gonna get in our logs. So if you read the comments, you got different levels. So for development, let's maybe set up debug, and let's save that. And I'm just gonna grab this very quickly, because again, this probably doesn't exist in Redis container. So we're gonna quickly jump into the Docker file, and just before our Redis configuration, we are going to run some commands, and we need to, first of all, we need to create this directory, so mkdir and that, and also we need to adjust permissions. So what we're gonna do and we're gonna say chown this time Redis Redis on this directory. Save that, and now let's rebuild our container. So if I jump back to terminal and do Redis, we should be good to go. Actually not. So the side of the container is kind of sorted. I need to go back to DockerCompose, and in our Redis service we're gonna mount volume. So we say volumes, and from our logs we're gonna mount Redis, and we're gonna do errors.log into that errors.log, and final bit, we actually need to create a file. So if we create errors.log, we're gonna mount this file into our container, and hopefully with that sorted we should be able to receive logs. So let's recreate our container again very quickly, and as soon as it's created, let's SSH into this container. So let's do docker exec -it my project Redis, and let's run Redis CLI and do ping set test to test. Let's run another one, get test, and exit, and I'm hoping that everything went fine and we gonna be able to have our logs readable. So as you can see, looks like everything is working fine. So client connected and so on. Yeah, so that's it, guys. We've got logs out of the way.